You no longer chase dopamine, you manufacture it. The game flips, and you become addicted to your own power. You ever notice how the most disciplined people almost look like they're addicted to control? Not forced, not tired, addicted. There's a difference. Most people chase comfort, but the rare ones, those who master themselves, chase resistance. And the strange thing is, the more they suffer for their goals, the more alive they feel. That's not motivation, that's chemistry. Your brain runs on dopamine. Every pleasure, every hit of satisfaction, it's all chemicals. And here's the dark truth. Dopamine doesn't reward success. It rewards pursuit. It rewards what you believe will bring reward. That means if you can make your brain crave the process instead of the outcome, you win. You flip the system. You no longer need motivation. You become it. At first it hurts. You'll want to quit. You'll tell yourself it's not worth it. But discipline is like withdrawal. It feels unbearable until your brain adjusts. Once it does, something shifts. You start getting small hits of pleasure from progress, from repetition, from control. The pain turns into power. The grind becomes a game. That's the moment discipline becomes addictive. You start feeling it in the silence. Waking up early doesn't drain you, it feeds you. Skipping distractions doesn't feel like loss, it feels like clarity. You stop chasing cheap dopamine. You start manufacturing your own. That's the secret the undisciplined never understand. They're slaves to the next hit. You're crafting your own high. Every time you resist, your brain takes note. Every time you delay gratification, it rewards you differently, slowly, quietly. You feel the pull change direction. You start craving effort, not escape. And that's when the game flips. You stop being the one who struggles to stay focused. You become the one who can't live without focus. It's not about forcing yourself anymore. It's about feeding the addiction, to progress, to precision, to power. There's something dark about it, because once you taste it, there's no going back. Ordinary pleasures feel dull. Distraction feels dirty. Comfort feels like decay. You become obsessed with sharpening yourself, pushing further, doing what others avoid. It's not discipline anymore. It's desire, redirected. You don't need a reward. The act becomes the reward. You train until the struggle feels like home. This isn't positive thinking. It's neurological dominance. You hijack your brain's reward system and turn it inward. You stop chasing hits from the outside world and start generating them from control. Each small act of discipline becomes a spark, and soon you burn with it. That's how people transform. Not through motivation, not through emotion, but through chemistry. The alchemy of effort. You begin to see how fragile others are. How easily they crumble when things get uncomfortable. You start realizing that self-control isn't about morality, it's about mastery. The ability to command yourself under pressure, to silence impulses that scream for relief. You look around, and everything becomes noise. You're no longer in competition with others. You're competing against the version of you that once gave in. The irony is, the same brain that once made you weak is now your greatest weapon. The same dopamine that once enslaved you now serves you. You've reprogrammed the system. The addiction remains, but now it's chained to your purpose. In the end, discipline isn't about suffering, it's about seduction. You seduce your own mind into craving the very thing that used to break you. And when that happens, you don't chase control. You become control. Most people fail at discipline not because they lack strength, but because they keep feeding their ego. Every time you seek comfort, validation, or applause, you give your ego another hit. It becomes addicted to being seen, being liked, being safe. And that addiction kills discipline. Because discipline isn't loud, it's silent. It grows in the dark where nobody's watching. The ego hates silence. It hates effort that no one notices. It hates working without reward. That's why so many people quit when progress feels invisible. Their ego starves and they can't handle the hunger. But here's the truth. If you can starve your ego long enough, it breaks. And when it breaks, you finally meet the part of yourself that doesn't need validation to keep going. That's the real self. Cold, focused, untouchable. You have to strip the ego down until it has nothing left to hide behind. No excuses, no audience, no approval, just you, your will, and the quiet. That's where discipline is born. When no one claps, no one sees, no one cares, and you still move forward. That's power, because that means your drive no longer depends on their attention. You've taken control of your fuel source. The ego feeds on noise. You must feed on silence. Every time you resist the urge to prove yourself, you build a kind of invisible armor. You stop explaining, you stop justifying, you start acting. You don't post the progress, you live it. You don't need them to see the fire, you become it. And that transformation doesn't feel pretty. It feels empty at first, lonely, quiet, even painful. But that emptiness is freedom, because the ego dies in isolation, and when it does, discipline takes its place. There's a strange peace that comes with not needing to be seen. You start moving differently, calm, measured, detached. You no longer chase recognition. You chase precision. You stop craving attention, and that's when attention finds you. Ironically, the moment you no longer seek validation is when you begin to command respect without asking for it. That's the paradox of power. Discipline grows stronger in the absence of praise, because when there's nothing feeding your ego, the only thing left to feed is your purpose. And purpose is a hungrier beast. It devours weakness. It demands silence, repetition, and sacrifice. The world won't clap for your discipline. It won't celebrate your restraint. But you'll feel it in your bones, in the stillness, in the focus, in the way you stop flinching when life hits. That's the reward, self-control that no one can touch. The deeper you go, the quieter you become. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you no longer need to say it. You've turned inward. You've made a deal with yourself, a silent promise to move without noise. And while the world screams for attention, you move like a shadow, unseen but unstoppable. That's the real secret. Invisibility is power. The ego wants spotlight. Discipline lives in the dark. Once you break the ego, it doesn't come back the same. It learns obedience. It stops controlling you and starts serving you. It becomes a tool, not a master. And that shift changes everything. You stop reacting emotionally to criticism, rejection, failure. They lose their grip. You see through them, because your worth is no longer up for debate. It's self-issued, self-earned, untouchable. Starve the ego, feed the discipline. Let silence be your approval. Let restraint be your applause. You don't need their validation. You need control. Every time you say no to something easy, you sign a silent contract with your future self, a shadow contract. No words, no witnesses, just a quiet exchange between who you are now and who you're trying to become. And every time you keep that promise, your shadow grows stronger. Every time you break it, it fades. Most people never understand this. They think discipline is about routines, habits, schedules, but it's not. It's loyalty. Loyalty to the darker part of you that doesn't care how you feel, the one that demands more when you're tired, the one that watches you when no one else does. Discipline isn't just control, it's allegiance. You choose between comfort and your own evolution every single day, and every choice is a signature. When you betray discipline, your shadow remembers. It weakens. You feel it in the guilt, in the self-hatred, in the noise that fills your mind afterward. That's the sound of your future self watching you fall short. But when you stay loyal, even when it hurts, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself. That trust becomes strength. That strength becomes identity. There's something darkly sacred about it. Discipline is not light, it's not warm or inspiring, it's cold, it's ruthless. It's the part of you that doesn't negotiate, the part that drags you out of bed when you don't want to move, the part that tells you the truth when the world lies. It doesn't care about comfort or ease, it only cares about one thing: becoming unstoppable. You can't fake that, you can't post it, you can't pretend to live by it for applause. The shadow knows the truth, it watches every action, it keeps score, and every time you choose laziness, distraction, or weakness, you break the oath. You train your brain to doubt itself. You feed the coward, not the warrior. But the moment you start honoring that inner contract, you rebuild, quietly, patiently, with blood, not words. Discipline isn't about never failing, it's about never abandoning yourself. The shadow doesn't demand perfection, It demands persistence. It doesn't care if you crawl, as long as you move forward. That's the beauty of the dark side of self-discipline. It's honest, brutal, but honest. It doesn't flatter you, it doesn't care about your feelings, it only cares about results. And over time, the lines blur. The person who used to rely on motivation disappears. The version of you that once begged for energy or inspiration is gone. In its place stands something harder, colder, sharper. You stop needing to push yourself, you start obeying yourself. Discipline stops being effort. It becomes instinct. You realize you've been signing that shadow contract your whole life. Every decision, every delay, every moment you resisted or surrendered, it's all written in the dark. And when you finally learn to read it, you see what it really says. No one is coming to save you. The future is only as loyal as you are. That's the truth most people can't handle. Because loyalty to your shadow means betrayal of your comfort. You can't serve both. One must die for the other to live, so you keep signing, you keep sacrificing, you keep building in silence while others waste their breath. And when the noise fades, when the weak break, you'll still be there, steady, patient, relentless, because the shadow never forgets who kept their word. Stay loyal to your shadow, betray nothing. There's a point when discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like obsession, when the struggle becomes a kind of pleasure. It doesn't happen overnight, it happens quietly, through repetition, through resistance, through every moment you wanted to quit but didn't. Something rewires. You stop chasing dopamine and you start creating it. That's the moment discipline turns into addiction. It's not the addiction you're used to. It's not chaos or escape. It's control. It's the high that comes from saying no, the rush of restraint, the strange satisfaction in denying your impulses and watching yourself obey. Most people never feel that. They're slaves to desire, chasing the next hit, the next distraction. But when you flip the system, when you learn to generate pleasure from self-control, you taste something rare. Power. The brain is simple. It wants reward. It doesn't care where it comes from. You can train it to crave anything. The problem is, most people train it to crave weakness. Comfort, stimulation, validation, all easy, all empty. The disciplined mind goes the other way. It attaches reward to resistance. It gets high on holding back. That's what makes it dangerous. Because now you're not fighting your instincts, you've replaced them. It starts small. You resist something meaningless, a craving, a distraction, a habit. You feel the discomfort rise, but you hold, you win. The moment passes, and what's left is this strange surge of strength. You feel cleaner, clearer, more in control. That's dopamine, the real kind, earned, not given. And your brain remembers it. It begins to crave that feeling of mastery. Each act of control becomes a hit. Each moment of focus becomes fuel. You're addicted, but this time to your own evolution. It's dark because it changes what pleasure means to you. The things that once excited you start to feel cheap. The highs that used to control you lose their taste. You start needing something deeper, something sharper. And discipline gives it to you. The satisfaction of command, the ecstasy of complete focus. You begin to crave your own control like a drug. That's when people notice. You move differently, calm, unbothered. There's a stillness in you that unsettles others. They see the discipline, but they don't see the craving underneath it. They think it's cold willpower, but it's not. It's addiction, channeled. The high of self-mastery, the rush of control. You're no longer pulled by temptation, you're pulled by power. The danger is real. Once you taste it, you can't go back. You can't tolerate weakness anymore. You can't stand being average, distracted, or uncertain. You become addicted to clarity, addicted to precision, addicted to that invisible force that bends the mind under your command. And it isolates you, because very few understand that kind of hunger, the hunger to dominate yourself completely. But that's what true discipline is, a beautiful corruption. You take the same mechanism that destroys most people and turn it into your weapon. You stop chasing pleasure and start producing it through restraint. You take control of your biology, your chemistry, your will. The world no longer dictates your highs, you do. That's the real addiction, the control over your own mind. It's not motivation, It's transformation. The system that once enslaved you now serves you. The brain that once betrayed you now obeys you. You've rewritten the code. The addiction remains, but the source has changed. And once that switch happens, there's no return. The mind doesn't forget power. The body doesn't forget control. You no longer chase the high. You're the high. You've crossed the line most never see. The point where control becomes hunger, where effort becomes instinct, where silence feels louder than applause. There's no comfort left, no turning back, just the quiet fire that keeps burning, demanding more. You built this version of yourself in the dark, no shortcuts, no noise, just discipline turned addiction. And now, you don't need permission, you don't need motivation, you don't even need reward. Because the power isn't out there anymore. It's inside you, and it's never letting go.